Wolverine is known for his iconic feud with Sabretooth, but what about his iconic feud with this guy? Welcome back, Nerd Squad. It's me, Amanda. Today we are talking about one of my favorite characters, even though I know how typical that is, Wolverine. Which Wolverine villain is your favorite, and why do you think they are the perfect rival, bub? Number 10. General Koi. General Koi is the criminal uncle of Jean Koi-Man, aka mutant hero and New Mutants and former X-Men member Karma. He was pitted against Wolverine under the guise of Patch in Madripoor as a result of Logan allying himself with Koi's rival, the still criminal but more respectable Tiger. And friends, before we move on to this next spot, if you are loving what we do here at Top 10 Nerd, please go check out our newest channel, Most Amazing Top 10 Anime. You're not gonna want to miss it. Number 9. Romulus. Romulus is an often forgotten villain, although some of you may occasionally remember that he exists. He claimed to be super old and to have originated from a lupine tribe who were descended from dogs or wolves as opposed to apes. He's also claimed to have been a Roman emperor, but it's more than likely that neither are true, since both claims were tied to his connection to the lupines, which he later stated, never existed but were a lie he told to distract Wolverine. This pretty much sums up most of what Romulus was presented as. A greater than life villain with all these powers and motives to destroy Wolverine and ties to the foundation of Weapon X, but without any real foundation from him to work from, as many of his loose ends ended up kind of like dropped and not really going anywhere. Number 8. Roughhouse. Roughhouse is definitely a lesser known villain, though maybe one of the more well-known of the obscure villains on this list. I love his story with Wolverine. Although he starts out as a villain and a brute, he later kind of becomes Wolverine's ally after he was sold off by General Koi to be used for experimentation, which is pretty messed up. Even Wolverine felt bad for this guy, despite being his rival and him being an enemy to him on Madripoor. Wolverine decided to go after him and as such became embroiled in a major political conflict in Tierra Verde. Not to be confused with Terra Verde, a different republic that also exists in Marvel Comics. Yeah, I know. That's a lot. I just realized that myself and I was like, wait, these are two different places. Despite Roughhouse saving Wolverine though and becoming temporary allies, Roughhouse would go back to being a straight up villain of Logan later on. Number 7. Bloodscream. Although close to being tied in appearances with Roughhouse since they generally appear together, Bloodscream is slightly more niche than Roughhouse, but only slightly. He is the main partner to Roughhouse, the one he returned to after seemingly appearing as an ally and friend of Wolverine after he and Sister Salvation saved his life, cleansing him of the spore infection he'd received thanks to Geist's experimentation on him in Tierra Verde. Bloodscream, however, never had such a redemption arc. He possesses vampiric abilities which are tied to mysticism, having been cursed by Dagu, a healer who cast an eldritch spell on him while he was on the brink of death. Instead of bringing him back to life, the spell actually caused him to remain trapped between the state of life and death. He became an immortal creature who fed on the life force energy of others through touch. Bloodscream and Roughhouse would become partners and would be employed by multiple different criminal organizations and bosses, often being pitted against Wolverine. Number 6. Dirtnap. Dirtnap is a weird character, but one who kind of has a beautiful story. Dirtnap originally appeared as one of Genesis's Dark Riders, Tyler Dayspring's Genesis, just to be clear. Dirtnap was a mutant who had an ability where he could absorb beings into himself, thereby adopting their form. However, you would know it was Dirtnap because of a red smiley face that would often appear somewhere on him, usually on his clothes or, on his body while in that form. While fleeing from Wolverine, however, who he'd been going up against at the behest of Genesis to try and capture, he absorbed a rat and kind of became stuck or otherwise just preferred this form, keeping it. Dirtnap would later on actually end up joining the X-Men, befriending Generation X, and even sacrifice his own life to protect them. However, we are now in the time of mutant resurrection, and more recently in the 2022 series of Marauders in issue number 6, Dirtnap was actually spotted spying on Lockheed, who was in turn spying on villain Brimstone Love's Theater of Pain. When Dirtnap had turned good, his smiley face had actually changed to yellow, but when we recently spotted him, his smiley was back to red. So what does that mean? Seems like he's evil again. Number 5. The Red Right Hand. The Red Right Hand was an organization that was brought together by one thing each member shared in common: their hatred of Wolverine. This is because in some way, as each member saw it, Wolverine was to blame for some great misfortune that had befallen them. The Red Right Hand, however, acknowledged that Wolverine was unkillable, basically thanks to his healing factor, so they came up with a better plan in regards of how to best deal with him. Their plan was to send his soul to hell for all of eternity, trapping him there. The Red Right Hand allied themselves with Daken and Mystique to enact their plan. However, Mystique would later turn on them when she found out all the details that their plan entailed, and thought even for her it was pretty awful. In the end, although they didn't trap Wolverine's soul in hell for all of eternity, their plan did succeed. And even worse, they were left with their final say, as they took their own lives rather than surrender to Wolverine or allow him to get revenge by killing them. Number 4. The Mongrels. The Mongrels were a team assembled by the Red Right Hand to seemingly take out Wolverine. They were brought together by and trained by none other than Daken, the son of Wolverine, who now goes by the name given to him by his adoptive parents, Akihiro. Daken trained the Mongrels but never really expected them to succeed in defeating Wolverine. This is because it was all part of the Red Right Hand's master plan that they lose, or well, win or lose against Wolverine, that the Red Right Hand would win as a result. Because the Mongrels were actually a team made up exclusively of Wolverine's kids. These were the kids that Wolverine didn't know about or that he forgot due to his memories in general being kinda like a mess. Kinda because of his healing factor and such. Only after Wolverine defeated them, killing them, did he learn the truth about each and every member of that team. Number 3. Charlie Chainsaws. He's a real guy. He's about as ridiculous as he sounds, but also about as terrifying as he sounds too. Charlie Chainsaws appears in Wolverine Weapon X, where he's one of Dr. Rotwell's patients in later experiments. Charlie Chainsaws was locked up in the Dunwich Sanatorium because he liked killing people with chainsaws. To make him even more deadly, Rotwell decided to therefore give him chainsaws for hands. This didn't make him a very quiet or tactile killer, but it did make him a very bloody one. Eventually, Wolverine would escape the sanatorium, but so would Dr. Rotwell and his beloved experiment, Charlie Chainsaws. Number 2. Spore. Spore was apparently a super ancient evil that was created by the Deviants way back as a weapon to be used against the Eternals. However, Spore didn't just do harm to Eternals, but kinda to all living things it came in contact with. As such, Spore was condemned by the Celestials and killed, or at least defeated, long ago. Or so they thought. While destroyed, Spore lived on in the soil where he was defeated. Eventually, through this soil, he was able to return through substances that were grown in it and used for experimentation on people like Roughhouse. In fact, Roughhouse ended up infected and had to be saved later on by Wolverine as a result. Wolverine and his mutant friend Bandera ended up fighting against Spore with some help from the people of Tierra Verde and Sister Salvation, who possibly herself was a mutant, although we're a little unclear on that. While defeated, a small piece of Spore would apparently survive, having resurfaced this summer somewhat randomly in an Iron Man comic. Apparently that happened. Number 1. Snow Queen. Snow Queen is someone who I initially thought was going to be revealed as Emma Frost when I first read about her, based on her appearance in issue number 24 of Wolverine from the 1990s. I mean, she kinda looks like Emma Frost, right? Like, I read it and I was like, is that Emma Frost? And then I was like, no, this is totally different character, Snow Queen. And yet, she is not Emma Frost. She is her own character who just happens to share a bit of a resemblance to Emma. Her real name is actually Bridget Leahy, and she has powers that allow her to create kinda like TV static, but in your brain. They are described as being telepathic snow powers. They basically make your mind foggy and make it hard for you to focus if you happen to be within range of her power. She did not last very long, dying in the same issue she first appeared in. So that's the end of Snow Queen. For now. I don't know if y'all are reading the current Wolverine series, but I have to say I love how Benjamin Percy just keeps me coming back for more. I am so here for Dracula, whose feud is evidently part of the overarching story, so we only come back to it every now and then, which really means I cannot stop reading it. Thank you so much for sticking around till the end. Stay nerdy, YouTube. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!